Hola Madridistas, welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real podcast. It's my pleasure to welcome Sam back on the pod again. It's sooner than we expected, to be honest. It's been, maybe barely like 6 months, since our previous preview. But Sam, talk to us. How has life been? How has the season been so far? How's work?
Yeah. The life's been quite good, I guess, on a work front especially. Yeah, had a little bit of a break from Barca and Spanish football in the summer. Went to New Zealand to do some of the Women's World Cup, which made a nice change. Covering the Women's World Cup is obviously completely different to covering, Barca and Madrid and La Liga on so many different levels. Not to do with necessarily the matches and stuff, just to do with how everything is dealt with and handled, and the access off the pitch. It's like a different game, so that was nice. And then back to the day job this season, and shaping up to be quite a nice season, isn't it? I'm hoping that Girona, and maybe it's hopeful more than anything to hope that Girona will stay up there, but I'm hoping that Girona and Atletico can give us something to talk about for as long as possible, if not until the very last day.
100%. I'm pretty positive the league is going to the wire this season, because I don't think either Real or Barcelona are like clear favorites this season. But welcome my esteemed co-host Jacob. How's it been going? First Clasico of the season. Excited?
Excited, scared. All of those emotions that go into a Clasico. Especially if you're a Real Madrid fan, you need to be a bit scared. But yeah, let's go.
100%. We have to keep our reservations, especially regarding our form and how we have been slowly growing into the season, albeit with some hiccups here and there. But Sam, like, before we actually delve into things, I would like to take some steam off and actually talk something casual, like how has Burnley been doing? Last time we were here, Burnley were actually quite superb. They were actually flying under Vincent Kompany, but the fates have turned for the worse.
Yeah, you're worse than Tony Juan Martí with these Burnley questions and this Burnley drilling. But yeah, things haven't started that well in the Premier League. I mean, I'm not sure how much your listeners want to hear me drone on about Burnley. I still have some positivity, some optimism. They obviously had a very hard start to the season. They lost
very tough fixture list.
Games you would expect them to lose, but then they were pretty comprehensively battered by Brentford last weekend. So we'll see what happens. It's a huge game this weekend. They've got against Bournemouth. I mean, they've got a young squad. Whether they should have signed more experience, they certainly didn't strengthen where they needed to strengthen. They just signed about 25 wingers. The squad planning wasn't great. They're perhaps lacking a bit of experience, but I still think when they get going, they do play some quite nice football. And my big hope is that there's so many other rubbish teams in the Premier League this season.
100%. See, I saw the performance against United, and let me be honest, Sam. Like, the football on display was top notch. The plays were intricate. It was very expansive. United didn't know what to do. To be honest, they just fluked out a win through a pretty instinctive finish by Bruno Fernandes. But do you think you guys would stay up this season? Are you positive about that?
I still think that, I mean, when you look at Luton, Sheffield United, Bournemouth, without even sort of looking up any higher other teams who could be dragged in, I think that we can. But we need to. We've got a huge run of games now, which we need to turn it around in. That Manchester United game was a bit of an anomaly, really, because we only lost by one goal. We're not very good at sort of keeping it tight and hanging into games. And we were good against United in the first half, but I just felt once we went behind, we were pretty toothless. We didn't really create a lot in the second half. Despite having created a lot at 0-0, once we were 1-0 down, we didn't really know how to test United when they were more sort of prepared to sit back. A lot of work to do. I still have a lot of faith in Vincent Kompany. The work he did last year was incredible. And like you say, against United, they look good. They've looked good in phases. So we'll see. But they need to kick on quickly, and this Bournemouth game on Saturday is the same time as the Clasico, so I miss it. Probably for the best, actually. Best for my heart that I miss it.
Last question, I swear, on Burnley. Sam, as a Burnley fan, right? What would you prefer? Would you prefer Sean Dyche's Brexit football getting you the wins that would enable you to actually stay up in the first division, or would you like someone like Kompany who just completely rips up the script and plays expansive entertaining football?
It's a good question, yeah. I don't like to. I'm obviously what Sean Dyche did for Burnley was remarkable on the budget and the way he played to get them into the Europa League in 2007 and 18. I'll never have a bad word to say about Dyche and the way he played at Burnley. But those final years and stuff were a bit dull. They are tough to watch. If you're winning football, there's no comparisons. You absolutely want to watch the company games. But we never had a run under Dyche where we were getting smashed in the Premier League as well. So it depends. I guess I can see why people would say at least with Dyche, we're a little bit more solid. But yeah, I much prefer to play Company's way, but I have a complete respect as well for the way we played under Dyche. So I don't like it when people criticize Dyche or Cholo or whatever and say it's defensive football. I think that's what makes football. Imagine how boring it would be if everyone just tried to play the same way and it just came down to resources or stuff like that. So yeah, you need different styles, and I encourage different styles. But yeah, I'm definitely more in favor of the Company style than the Dyche style. But incredible job Dyche did.
100%. Well, there you go. Some insight into what Sam is, beyond him covering Barcelona. But Jacob, do we have any comments? Are you keeping an eye? Because
I'm keeping an eye. No, none yet.
Right. Fair enough. Right. A small mini game like last time, just to warm things up before we delve into this. Sam, I would like from you your all-time Clasico 5-a-side. You could pick your own configuration of if you want to go with 2 defenders or 2 midfielders, 2 strikers. It's up to you. Clasico all-time 5-a-side.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because so many people to squeeze in. Goalkeeper, you probably want a modern goalkeeper. Obviously, the best in recent history have probably been Valdez and Casillas, maybe Ter Stegen. Courtois is right up there as well. But for 5-a-side, you probably want someone good with their feet. So you're probably going for Ter Stegen or Valdez, I guess.
You got to pick one.
I'll go for Valdez just because he was kind of not the first, but he was before Ter Stegen when he was kind of that notable Barca side. I'm just going to at the back. I'll just stick in Ramos just because he's an absolute nutter, and just for balance. I don't really. Sometimes I don't. When I'm doing these 5-a-side teams, sometimes I like to put like a defensive midfielder as the defender and just bin off all the defenders.
Right.
I feel like Ramos could just be like a one man defender.
High praise there.
Midfield, I'll go. There's just so many people, isn't there? You're looking at who would be so good at 5-a-side. You're looking at Ronaldinho, Iniesta, Zidane,
Deco,
Xavi. I'll go Ronaldinho and Zidane, and then Messi as the forward. This is just off the top of my head. Obviously, when you're picking a 5-a-side, there must be so many players that I'm going to get panned for missing out. But I think that's a pretty good team.
100%. So let's run it back again.
That's complete recency bias, but I'm not including players that I didn't see live.
Yeah, 100%. That adds, I think, a lot more depth to your 5-a-side. So let's run it back again. So goalkeeper was Valdez, Ramos at the back, and then Zidane and
Ronaldinho
for midfield.
Zidane, Ronaldinho, Messi.
Zidane, Ronaldinho, Messi. Right. So no Cristiano, Neymar's. Well. It's subjective. It's personal. It's a pretty damn good 5-a-side. Completely. Jacob, would you mind starting things off? Right. So where Barcelona are right this season, we didn't quite expect them to continue where they left off last year. Right, they had a pretty impressive league win where we were with Sam. We were discussing how defensively compact they were, how they had the knack all of a sudden to grind out wins. Under Xavi, did you expect them to kind of lose their steam a bit this season, like we have seen them just not really being dominant in games, but still managing to grind out results? Even without such, a tight-knit defense like last year. Did you expect that?
Definitely, man. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, go on, Jacob. Sorry.
Just from a Real Madrid side of things, from my perspective, I definitely saw them slow down, especially in terms of like Lewandowski is not scoring goals anymore towards the end of last season, and a lot of things going wrong at the club. Yeah, and who could have expected all of these youngsters just coming in, 16, 17, 18-year-olds coming,
17.
all coming and performing at a very high level. I did not expect that, and because like this was totally blindsided. I don't think a lot of people had
Yeah.
expectations for the Champions League campaign as well, but now I'm not so sure. They look like a very solid team.
Sam, what would you attribute that to? Like, is it just shrewd squad planning where they know well and where they are in the pecking order in terms of elite clubs in Europe, and just smart transfer strategies? Like, what would you attribute this solid start from Barcelona to, despite the injuries as well?
Yeah, I mean they're a combination of things. I guess they are. I think they've got a good selection of centre backs, and they've obviously largely stayed fit. I mean, Ronaldo Araujo missed a month at the start of the season, and Koundé's out now. But Inigo Martinez has come in and done well. Christensen's done well. I think that's probably where they're strongest, the four centre backs. So that helps. And obviously, Marc-Andre ter Stegen is really important as well. So they've kind of got, while there is change elsewhere, they've got that sort of solid block in terms of the goalkeeper and the centre backs. Balde's obviously consistent at left back. Obviously, the change has been at right back, where obviously Koundé's moved back into a central position and Cancelo's come in, which signals really the sort of evolution that Xavi wants to make this season with the side. Like you say, we spoke about how their Liga success last season was basically built on the fact that, they had 11 1-0 wins. They kept a lot of clean sheets. They were very solid defensively. They only conceded 20 goals, and a lot of them, they conceded 10 goals after 31 games. A lot of the other 10 came once they'd already won the league, and they sort of took their foot off the gas. It's not been the case this year, partly because of injuries, perhaps partly because of this new way. It's not a dramatic shift. Barca, even though we speak about them being defensively last season, obviously Xavi still has this same idea and way he wants to play. But I would say he was a little bit more pragmatic than perhaps he wanted to be, but he was a little bit more pragmatic than perhaps we expected last season. And obviously this year he's trying to sort of redirect Barca back to where they sort of, played, 10, 15, the fame that they have for playing, if you will. And that's through, Cancelo, João Felix, those signings, Ilkay Gundogan are all sort of examples of wanting to play that way, more like, Pep sides, Man City sides, however you want to frame it. To do that, they've obviously had to sacrifice bodies. They've got a short squad, which is hindering them now with the injuries. Although, as Jacob said, I mean, there's been, I guess, not an element of luck, but an element of surprise in how these young players have come in and had such an impact. Well, I guess the main one is Fermin Lopez. I mean, Lamine Yamal, even though he's so young, he was 16 in the summer, there was always an expectation that he would have some role to play this season. We didn't expect him to play such a big role, but, he debuted last April. We knew he was going to do preseason with the first team. We knew he was going to be in and around the first team. We thought, maybe he'll make sort of 10 to 20 appearances this season, whether as a substitute or whatnot. But obviously with the series of factors, Ousmane Dembele leaving, Rafinha getting sent off in the first game, he's come in and he's done well. So I wouldn't say Lamine Yamal is a surprise factor per se, but yeah, he has done very well. But Fermin Lopez has been, especially over these last few games, has been a massive surprise. So I don't think anyone could have expected that when he was, not even deemed sort of essential for the B team last year, sent out on loan to Linares. And I really like it actually, because so often you get these stories and it's like, look at Lamine Yamal, destined for the top from the age of 6 or whatever. Whereas Fermin Lopez, I mean, he was also that. He was, Barca, let's not kid ourselves, Barca bought him from Betis because he was one of the best, wherever he was at the time, 12, 13-year-olds in the country. He was highly rated within the academy, but there was a point when he staggered and he went to Linares. And when you're going to a third-tier team, Linares, and you're not getting in the B team, I don't think there's anyone last year saying Fermin Lopez has a future at Barcelona. I think even he's spoken about in interviews, he basically thought, that's it, my Barca career is done to a certain effect. You don't really go to Linares in the third division and come back. So for him to come back, and not just to get into the first team, but that performance on Wednesday night against Shakhtar Donetsk, he was the best player on the pitch for me by a long way. Just his all-round game, his awareness, his touch, his pressing, his passing. So yeah, he's been a big surprise factor, and he's really helped in these last few weeks with De Jong and Pedri missing. So yeah, I mean they've got quite a good squad, and they've coped well with these injuries for now, getting through that Athletic game, getting through the Shakhtar game. Yeah, there are questions, but they're trying to evolve. It's hard to make an assessment really with the injuries that they had. Obviously, they had those back-to-back 5-0 wins against Betis and Antwerp when Xavi said they played the best football that they've ever played under him, which were the first games with Cancelo and Felix, and it looked like they were all of a sudden going to click into another gear. It's not quite been the case since then. They've had ups and downs. They've had an amazing comeback against Celta Vigo, but the fact they had to make that comeback obviously raises questions. So to get to this stage of the season unbeaten is good. The points that they've dropped, if you look at Madrid, Madrid have dropped points against Atletico and Sevilla away from home. They're kind of games you can not write off, but you kind of think, well, if you're dropping points there, that's okay. Whereas Barcelona have dropped points against Mallorca, Granada, Getafe, games when perhaps they should be winning. So perhaps a few more question marks there. But they've done well. Like I say, it's hard to completely judge the trajectory on. It helps that they've had a favourable Champions League draw that's helped them sort of, because otherwise the pressure would be on. If they'd have had to play Bayern Munich and Inter Milan again this season, who knows what would have happened with these injuries. Obviously, they only won 1-0 at Porto. And it was far from comfortable. And then last night against Shakhtar as well. They completely controlled that game. But once Shakhtar got the game, there was that element of doubt there, and it did. Goals change games, the famous old cliche. And it did sort of. There were a bit of concerns up until that point. Barca looked absolutely comfortable, like they could win 4 or 5-0. But then they did wobble a bit at 2-1. So but they've come through, and it sets up the Clasico really nicely.
100%. A lot of points I want to actually ask you more about, but we would come back to you, Jacob. With Barcelona's recent results, if I don't know if you have caught any of those performances live, right? But I've seen quite a few, and the common pattern is basically like what Sam described about last night. They would be cruising in a game. They would be 2-0 up. Xavi will actually look on to bring on some young guns and rest up the main 11 and whatnot. But they tend to lose their way. They tend to have a lapse in concentration way too often for a side of Barcelona's stature. Do you think us being so good in transition is going to be our main source of getting something positive out of the game tomorrow?
I think we can do a lot of things positively, but then the only question mark is, can we be clinical enough to actually take? I know for sure there's going to be transition opportunities. Jude and these guys can create those chances, but then right now as a team, we're not that clinical enough. We need 5-6 chances to score 1 goal, which wasn't the case last year. We're certainly missing Benzema. It's not just for the creation of the chances for me. It's just that we need to have the luck for the night, and we need to, not be intimidated by the Camp Nou.
It's not the Camp Nou. It's the Olympic Stadium, by the way. But anyone can miss it. I would completely understand you. But Sam, coming back to you, you had mentioned, right? People didn't expect, the media didn't expect, right? Spain didn't expect Xavi to be that pragmatic. Maybe he became too pragmatic for his own good, right? But this season, sometimes looking at the lineups, right? It's basically him going back to a flat 4-3-3. Do you think that has played a part? Maybe a much more, let's just say, when he lowered down the pragmatism. Do you think that this helped aid their young players to actually come in and prosper without worrying too much about tactics and keeping their shape? Because for instance, last night Fermin Lopez, he had kind of a different role to the usual instructions he has been given. He actually played off Ferran Torres, if I'm not mistaken, in kind of a second striker drifting role where he was on the left side or on the right side. Pretty fluid, unlike the other games where he was pretty rigid. If he played on the right, he more often than not stayed on the right. Do you think this has kind of helped Barca's young guns come in and adapt so well?
I don't think the system's changed too much. Xavi said, obviously we as journalists have spoken about the system changing because it has changed, like you say, with Felix. Gavi perhaps playing a sort of
winger,
fake left winger midfielder, if you will. Xavi would say it doesn't change at all, that the system is still the same, that it's always in effect a 4-3-3, the names and stuff might change. So I don't think that's a massive effect on the young players, if you will. And it is kind of true. Barca have a very sort of defined system in general. Obviously, it can change from game to game, or pieces can change. Fermin Lopez, I just think last night Fermin Lopez was perhaps in his best position. Like you say, he's been used as sort of in that sort of fake winger role. He even played as a false nine for parts of the game against Athletic. Yesterday, he was more or less the attacking midfielder alongside Gundogan, like you say, getting forward into the spaces when Ferran Torres dropped in and perhaps like sort of rotating you come, I go role. And I think that's his best position. That's kind of where he was last season for Linares. I think he got, over 10 goals there. He is a goal scoring midfielder. I think that was why he was so good last night, because he was finally given the chance to play in his best position. Obviously, in the past, he's perhaps been used in other positions because there's been Gavi, there's been De Jong, there's been Gundogan, and there's not been the need for him in central midfield. But yeah, I mean, there is that is the Barca debate, whether they're more solid with the, like you say, whether it's a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 or not. For me, it's just the case that the question is fitting in your best players. And I think at one point last season, Barca's best players were their four midfielders, Gavi, De Jong, Pedri and Busquets at the time. And their forwards weren't really performing, and it made sense to then just have Lewandowski and open up the pitch with Dembele on the right. Whereas this season you've got João Felix on the left, who's he's been up and down, but in general I'd say he's been quite good. You've got players that can play on the right at any moment, whether it's Ferran Torres, Lamine
I want to
Yamal,
actually, Sam, sorry to interrupt you. Like, since you mentioned Felix, right? Like, I want to pick your mind about, João Felix. Like, do you actually rate him? Like, is there a player there that was once touted to be the next superstar? Like, because ever since he came to Atleti, like we haven't seen enough from him to actually, warrant any sort of attack that he has. As like people label him world class too easily.
Yeah, he's an interesting one, isn't he? Because I think everyone or the majority of people would say there is a player in there. I think even at Atletico, there were moments, goals or moments in matches where he did things or beat players and you thought, yeah, he's great. But he's 23 now, and he's never done it consistently. He had a chance at Chelsea, which didn't quite work out. And now he's at Barcelona, and the start was very good. He's been okay since. He was good against Athletic, I thought, when Barca won. He was dipped off a little bit last night. But yeah, to be in that top bracket, he doesn't just need to be good. He needs to post numbers, and he's kind of got by at Barca for this first, what are we coming up to now? So I guess it's almost 2 months now that him and João Cancelo have been playing. And his performances have been good, but there becomes a point at Barca when you're not the new shiny thing, and when performances alone for a forward are not good enough. He's just got 1 goal in La Liga. I think it's in eight appearances, maybe. Obviously, he does other things. He set up the goal for Marc Giroud, obviously, against Athletic. He's got a couple of goals, 3 goals in the Champions League, I think. But yeah, he needs to start. There needs to be more output soon. Otherwise, yeah, like you say, it's far from last chance saloon. He's doing well enough at Barcelona that whatever happens at Barcelona, he's going to be at a top-level European club next year, whether it's, obviously, I doubt it's back to Atletico, but whether it's Barca or somewhere else. It's not last chance saloon in terms of a club, but I think for him, there is an element of that he needs to deliver this season.
I think there's initiative, at least from this side, because I've seen him work a lot more harder playing for Barcelona, than I've ever seen him do for Chelsea or for Atleti. Another player who, again, polarizes opinion is Ferran Torres. I've never thought he was, in any way a great player. He always looked bang average for me. But Ferran Torres this season has somehow, managed to find a way to be relevant in the starting lineup for Barcelona. Sam, like, do you think it's basically stuff going his way, Lewandowski's injury, or is it just Ferran Torres actually stepping up really, really, big this season?
I think it's a combination of a few things. Obviously, the injuries to Rafinha and the red card he had early on in the season. The Lewandowski injury now has obviously given him more chances than he perhaps would have had. It also helps last season he didn't have a pre-season. He missed the start of the season and he never sort of recovered his confidence from there. This season, he switched into this famous shark mode in pre-season and got a pre-season under his belt, scored goals in pre-season, came into the season in good spirits and has scored goals and stuff. I don't mind him. I quite like Ferran Torres. I think he works hard. I think he has some games where he is really good. I'm yet to be convinced that he is, a truly sort of top level forward that can start for Barca for 5 years and score 20 plus goals a season. I actually think the best I saw of Ferran Torres was the first 6 months when he came to Barcelona from Manchester City. And obviously, Barca were in a really bad situation and climbing the table at the time. And he didn't score loads of goals. He missed quite a lot of chances, but it wasn't like chances he was missing like sitters. They were just, just shooting wide or whatnot. Or he was getting into really good positions. He was playing well. He was taking responsibility. Obviously, that was a team with, very different to the team that is now. And you could see that he kind of felt like the leader, like he was the one that had to take responsibility. He was the new signing at the time. He'd just been paid big money for. And now I don't feel like he plays quite like that. It's like even now in this whole shark mode thing, I still feel like he's playing slightly within himself. I think he's okay and he's a good option. But yeah, I don't think he will ever be a top level option for Barca. I hope I'm proved wrong, because he does work hard and he has had a lot of unfair criticism.
There you go. Like I honestly always felt like he just got too many chances to actually prove himself, and he never did, unfortunately for him. But
I actually think he's better than Rafinha, because on the spot you're always like mentioning, man, why is Rafinha playing for a club like Barca? He's not good enough, and what?
Well, this season the performances that I've seen from Rafinha this season, I believe he is actually better than Ferran Torres. Let's be honest. I don't know if Sam actually agrees with it, but do you feel the same, Sam? Or is it?
I would probably say that Rafinha edges it, yeah. And I would probably say that if Barca had to pick a right winger for a game tomorrow and it was between Ferran Torres and Rafinha, both fully fit, that's how they would pick Rafinha as well.
100%. There you go. Jacob, like I hope you stayed up with what's been going on with Barcelona, especially regarding their injury crisis. Like, assuming Felix is injured and no one comes back for Saturday, Barcelona have exactly like 12 first-team players for the weekend, including 2 goalkeepers and only 1 senior attacker. Do we actually get a better chance at stamping our authority in La Liga this season?
Man, this is such a hard question, because every Clasico that I felt like Real Madrid is much stronger, Barca just not have any chance. They always manage to find some chance in between in the match, and then it just takes 1 goal to like totally turn the tide of the match, right? And for me, so far, Barca has been able to do that, even if the odds are against them. I wouldn't like say our chances are like way more than now than if Lewandowski and Co were fit. But and especially like if you take a look at our defense, it's not like these guys are getting scored against by world-class players. Nowadays there's a lot of weakness. There's a lot of weakness here, and I feel like Barca, if they get a couple of good chances, they're going to score, and we're going to find it difficult.
100%, especially at home. The fans roaring them on. It'll be difficult for us. Like we've always seen how things pan out in Clasicos. Form goes out of the window. It's pretty much Guz the way how it says on the tin. Basically, Clasicos never plays out according to the script. But Sam, I want to actually ask your thoughts about Oriol Romeu, right? He came from Girona, had stints at Southampton, if I'm not mistaken. He has been everywhere, a journeyman, but he is some sort of a dying breed in the modern game, where he is a proper specialist 6. He is a specialist CDM who was brought in to do one role, not essentially what Sergio Busquets used to do, but to break up play and to help progress the ball up the pitch. But fans, both Barca fans and even the neutrals, have often pointed out that Oriol Romeu is the sore thumb, sore guy sticking out, the odd one out, who doesn't exactly really look Barca material. Would you relate to that? Like, can you argue against it?
Well, there's you could argue against it in the sense that Oriol Romeu started the season very well. And people were sort of surprised. Perhaps he overperformed. So perhaps that's sort of been slightly to his detriment in the long run, because people were like, oh, hang on, he's doing much better than we expected. And then, especially these last 2 games, especially against Athletic, a little bit better against Shakhtar, but still not completely at the races. He was, he was
jogging last night. Trying to track back.
Overall, he was okay, but obviously for that second goal, he was he completely lost his man and just didn't have the pace. But when it comes down to a race like that, I kind of feel sorry for him because it's the gap.
He's not that quick.
The gap was left on the right by Cancelo, and Barca was sort of plugging gaps with Araujo pulled across, and then the centre back's not in there, so Romeo's trying to get back to track someone who was not initially his man, even though perhaps he could have been slightly better positioned. But it comes from the space left by Cancelo. But yeah, he's not been good the last 2 games. And one thing I do want to see is if his dip in form has sort of coincided with the loss of Frenkie de Jong.
Yeah, 100%.
Perhaps of Barca's other midfielders, if you look at Gavi, Gundogan, de Jong, obviously Pedri's not been playing because he's injured. Fermin Lopez, de Jong's the one who drops back and not so much helps Romeo without the ball, but with the ball, he takes a lot of pressure off Romeo. So I don't know if that's just a coincidence that Romeo's form has dipped without Frenkie de Jong and having to play with perhaps more attacking midfielders, and perhaps he's a little bit more exposed. But yeah, he's very much a stopgap. Barca, obviously, everyone knows Barca had no money. They had to find a 6 to replace Busquets. Romeo was available with this cheap release clause. He was prepared to take money from his wage to get the deal done. And obviously, he's from the club, from the area. But yeah, it's a big concern going into the Clasico, I think, the form of Romeo, and those are the big questions really over the team selection. I've spoken a lot about leaving Romeo out just because I think you pick your quality players, and I understand why it might be suicide to leave Romeo out. Not necessarily for the Clasico, but just in general when Barca have got all their midfielders back. So yeah, that's the big question, because obviously in those sort of inside left areas where you have Vinicius and Bellingham, you're gonna have, in theory, if Barca don't change anything, you're gonna have sort of Cancelo and Romeo, and then perhaps Araujo is the right centre back unless they change things up. So yes, probably the key area of the pitch, I think, the Saturday, that if the teams are as expected, and there's Bellingham shifting towards the left as he has done to sort of chip in with Vinicius, and Cancelo starts at right back and Romeo's the 6, that's going to be an interesting area.
100%. That's what I thought as well. Whenever I see Romeo, like every Classics number 6, he has the limitation of he's not very agile, he's not very quick. He can't really exactly dribble out of a press. So I honestly believe that we must target him. Because he tries to be. He is really the least press resistant out of your Cancelo or your Rojos. But since we are on the topic, Sam, João Cancelo actually came in with a reputation of being sort of a bad influence in the dressing room. Things didn't really quite pan out for him with Guardiola towards the end as well. People were actually quite impressed with his overall performances, adding goals, assists. Cancelo is an all-round fullback. He is pretty much the very definition, of a modern fullback. But whenever I look at him closely, yes, he has immense quality in his delivery, ball retention. It all looks great when it's going good, right? But I often see him trying to do a lot of things on his own, trying to bite more than he can actually chew, which leaves his team so exposed, super exposed, so much that I feel like teams allow Cancelo to have the ball nowadays in 2023. Do you actually see him being a weak link for this Clasico, especially this being his first?
Yeah, he could be, especially because of, like we said, the fact that it's going to be spaces where Vinicius and Bellingham like to pop up, and not so much with the ball, but just how much he likes to get forward and how often he leaves space in behind his back. There's going to be, as we saw for the Shakhtar goal, as we've seen for a couple of goals this season. I don't know if, I've spoken about this with some people last night, how ready he is to sort of play a slightly more defensive or It's an interesting one. I think I keep wavering on what Xavi would do for the Clasico. I think, given the injuries and stuff, I think he probably will stick with Cancelo at right back. I don't think, and at no point did I think he would drop Cancelo, but I wondered if he would find a new role for him, whether he would play Araujo at centre back and at right back, and Christensen and Inigo Martinez. Perhaps if Koundé was fit, we might see that with Koundé at right back and Araujo or whatever, and then maybe Cancelo at left back or in a different role. But I think just because of how many bodies there are, I think he will limit the amount of experiments he tries.
So Araujo at right back is not going to happen, is what your prediction is, right? To stop Vinicius.
I mean, I wouldn't rule it out 100%. Before the Shakhtar game, I kind of thought it would happen, but I think that it was. I would go, I think can stick with Cancelo at right back. Other options have even been suggested that he could just invert Cancelo and Balde, just because Balde is a bit quicker and can. Obviously, Balde is also a very attacking left fullback, but he can also be a little bit more disciplined if really tasked with it. So they're the outside chances, that Araujo comes across at right back, has so often been the case against Madrid, in which case, I don't know whether he would play Cancelo at left back or Cancelo in a different role. But I think in the end, Inigo Martinez has not played a lot of football. He's started these 2 games this week. He said last night that he was feeling it a bit after 60 minutes. I think he'll go with Araujo and Christensen as the centre backs. Also, because Vinicius hasn't been such a hogging winger since Benzema left, has he? He's had a bit more.
The formation, the shape has changed, right? People play a diamond right now, so Vinicius is much more inside than hugging the touchline. 100%. I would totally expect Xavi to really give Cancelo his free rein to dictate the ball, dictate the play from the flank. But Jacob, I wanna come to you. We have won thrice in Barcelona over the past 10 years, right? 3 times out of the last 10, which means 7 losses, isn't really great, right? I know Barcelona, especially in Clásicos, especially against us, regardless of where they are in terms of form, morale, confidence, all of that, they somehow manages to actually turn up and do a number on us. Like, where do you think tomorrow's game lies in terms of like deciding where the title is going to go? Like, do you really think it's going to come down to just the Clásicos or just setting the tone so early into the season? Like, we had a chance with the El Derby. It didn't go to plan. It backfired horribly. It was the first time in a long time Carlo was under immense pressure after City. Do you think tomorrow is going to be a matter of we must, or we should be a little more pragmatic and just maybe see out a draw if that's the best case scenario?
I don't think that is in Carlo Ancelotti's playbook. Just playing out for a draw, playing pragmatic. Especially this season, he's just been going all out. Just guys go and attack. You'll make enough chances so that you'll be able to score the goals. He hasn't really been worried about defense. I don't think I've seen enough changes, even though the team has come under fire saying you can't say too many easy goals and whatnot. There has been literally no changes. So I'm going to expect a high-scoring game. Whether it goes our way or Barca's, I don't know. But something interesting that came into my mind, like when you compare the last 10 years, you could say that there has been like a gulf in quality between Real and Barca, especially in the early parts of those 10 years. But if you just look in the last 5 years, our teams are very evenly matched on paper. And still, Barca has gotten the upper edge. And even Carlo Ancelotti's record isn't that great, for El Clasico.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a fun game. Let's just say that.
100%. Sam, I want to ask you this question that I've always had, at the back of my mind. Now that you're here, it'll be super apt that I take my opportunity. Like what Jacob described, Sam. Like, do you think it's a mental block that we face against Barcelona sometimes?
I don't think so anymore. I think there was an element of that perhaps after the Pep Guardiola years and whatnot, there was a little bit of that feeling, wasn't there? I don't think it's a mental block now. I think it's just the Clasico's become, in the last sort of couple of years, really unpredictable. I think Jacob said it earlier in the episode. He said about how it feels like, and I've not actually researched this and worked out, but it feels like when you're going into the Clasico, there might be a case where, for example, this game where Barcelona are missing a lot of players, or in the past where perhaps Madrid are having a really bad season and they come into Camp Nou and Barca are doing really well, and you think, well, Barca are going to smash them because they're in great form, and the result always goes the way you don't expect it. So I think it's more of, if it is a mentality thing, I think there's kind of like a mentality thing around, I don't know if it's relaxing or sort of believing the hype, whether it's Barca or Madrid on either side, because my predictions have been awful in recent years. I'm like, well, Barca are in great form or Madrid are in great form, and then, Barca stick Marcos Alonso at centre-back and go and win 1-0 this year in the Copa del Rey, and then you're like, well, if they can do that at the Bernabeu, then they're going to have enough at Camp Nou, and then they lose 4-0, and yeah.
Who saw that coming?
There was an element of that, like you say, that mental thing at one point, but I don't think it exists now. This Madrid team, I don't hear people say this so much anymore, but there was that time when people would use the phrase "mentality monsters."
100%. Yeah, and it used to be the infamous three-peat side, which had that tag, but unfortunately, post that dynasty, we really haven't been mentality monsters, apart from maybe 2022 where we won the Champions League and the Liga double. But speaking of Carlo Ancelotti, Sam, did you expect the City debacle back in May in the Champions League? Did you expect us to lose by 4-0 at Etihad?
I expected Real Madrid to lose, yeah. I think last season, even this season, if you look at, it's not even a criticism of Real Madrid, it's more just a praise of Manchester City. Obviously at the moment it's looking a little bit different because Manchester City have lost a few games without Rodri, and you sort of waved in the season. But when we were talking about the Champions League draw, you're looking at the Champions League, and City look, things can happen in the knockout round, anything can happen over a two-legged tie. But if you're looking at it in terms of favourites, there was kind of City, and then there was a second bracket of teams. There was no one close to City, and it's been coming for a couple of years, them winning the Champions League, and sort of Real Madrid have done really well against them, to be fair, because there've been ties where I've also thought Man City would win and Real Madrid have overperformed. So yeah, I guess it was due time for Manchester City to produce a performance like that in the Champions League.
Well, there you go, people. Sam actually thinks the writing was on the wall. Nothing breaks my heart more than getting reminded of that tie. But I had to ask you because we actually did the preview not so long before that actually happened. But talking about tomorrow, Sam, right? I'm going to ask you this. Ask you your perspective, looking on from the outside. Carlo Ancelotti's decision to actually bridge the gap between Benzema leaving and a new wave of basically a new system to actually take the team forward. Was it the right thing to do? The fans, especially when we see games, we have this incredible frustration that we have so much possession, but it's so much of passive possession rather than penetrative possession. We don't do much with the time we have on the ball. And sometimes we feel like the players look disjointed because they don't have a clear idea of the shape of the system. What do you feel about Jude Bellingham's inclusion and how this season has shaped up for Madrid?
Yeah, you guys will know better than me. I think it's very early in the season. What you've got to consider is Vinicius was injured for was he out for a month, and then obviously even though he then comes back, it takes time to sort of get up to speed. He's obviously working on a new relationship in terms of on the pitch with Jude Bellingham, which also takes time to click. If you think back to Barca's treble season under Luis Enrique, up until January, people were like, Luis Suarez is a flop, should never have signed him. The MSN can't play with three forwards or whatnot. And I know it's completely different because obviously Madrid are playing with less forwards rather than more forwards now. But these things take time. Obviously, Rodrigo's been out of, I don't know if it's fair to say out of form, but obviously he's not been contributing as much as you perhaps would have expected in terms of goals. Perhaps a little bit like João Felix.
Yeah.
It takes time. I think Madrid's someone was right. I think they were right to. I think Joselu was a shrewd signing in terms of the cost of the deal, what he's added, and obviously he's scored goals. I really like him. I don't know, not as a starter.
You rate him, yes, Sam? You rate Joselu, yeah?
Not as obviously not like top number 9 starting every week for Madrid. Barca.
I see why you rate him, Sam. I could see why you rate him. He reminds you of Chris Wood.
No, but he's had, what's he had, 5-6 goals? He scored goals for Spain as well. In terms of having that option to come off the bench and to sort of, Barca had Luke de Jong, who was a cult hero in the end, with his contributions off the bench.
Joselu is better than Luke de Jong, let's be honest.
Exactly. And if you look at, the job that Choupo-Moting did at certain points at Bayern Munich off the bench as like a sort of a backup 9, I think it made more sense to do that than to, blow 60 million on like another Luka Jovic just to have like a
there you go.
9, to do that short-term effect and then wait and see what better comes up.
Well, I completely agree with whatever you said, apart from that absolute violation you just did by putting Felix and Rodrigo in the same sentence, but we would let it slide. We would let it slide. But again, from an opponent perspective, Sam, like, do you think Camavinga at left back for us would fare better than someone like Mendy or Fran Garcia for tomorrow?
Probably. I think Camavinga is amazing at left back. I think the only problem is that he doesn't like playing at left back. Like Jules Koundé last season at Barcelona kept sort of speaking about. It's clear that Camavinga doesn't like it. Camavinga is amazing there. I would, and it's a good way to fit in all your midfielders, isn't it? It's not a long-term solution, but I think it's a great solution.
Last time we were here with Sam, was Camavinga actually playing left back, Jacob? Do you remember?
No, I don't think so. I think it was towards the later part of last season that we started that.
Right. Yeah. I think he must have. He was playing left back, if I remember. But Jacob, I would like to ask you, right, what would be our best 11 for tomorrow? What I went with is Camavinga, Alaba, Rudiger, Carvajal, right? Cruz, Fede, Tchouaméni, Vini, Joselu, Jude Bellingham. Do you think that would fetch us what we want?
I think it would put us. It would give us the best chance to get what we want, especially the fact that we need to bench Rodrigo. Everyone knows this. All the fans are asking for it, but Carlo just says Rodrigo is having the time of his life. He's having pretty good games. He's just not scoring as much. But that's not the truth. I feel like we've discussed this on the podcast so many times. When Camavinga plays as the left back and Joselu plays as a striker, this team knows in which direction to put the balls in and how to attack. And when we lose,
it flows better in general.
When we lose both of these players, it's like we don't know what to do, especially in the final third.
Sam, like the diamond is a very fluid formation, right? But playing a diamond without recognized strikers is always doomed to fail. But having Joselu as a reference point, it definitely helps the cause, isn't it?
Yeah, and it keeps the centre backs pinned, doesn't it? Which leaves more space for Vinicius and Bellingham. If you take Joselu out of there, it leaves less space for Bellingham because the centre backs can sort of step up and whatnot. If you've got him there, that pins Araujo back. If you don't have Joselu and you have Rodrigo, who's playing more to the right, you kind of perhaps have Araujo stepping up to close down Bellingham. Whereas if not, you have spaces and you can isolate Bellingham against Romeo.
There you go. So yeah, the public sentiment is always more than often right. And Joselu, we play so much better with Joselu in the team. Right. I'm gonna slowly start, wrapping this up. I'll come to you, Jacob. Right. Pick one player that's gonna be the most decisive for tomorrow. Who's gonna tip the tie? In his side's favor.
Yeah, I mean, even if I had the option of choosing a Barca player, I would still go with Jude Bellingham. Like, it's a no-brainer.
As a fellow Englishman, Sam, Jude Bellingham, thoughts?
Bellingham is good, yeah. I think he seems to have not quite universal opinion, but there was a time early on the season where he was sort of getting accused of, stat padding or whatever, or scoring goals. The first time I saw him play for Madrid in person was at Girona last month in live, and he was just phenomenal. Just the spaces he takes up, the way he drives with the ball. He's been the standout player in La Liga this season, and in the England games last month as well against Italy. The Italy game, he was incredible. He won the penalty for the goal, strode forward with an incredible run for the Rashford goal. such a good player. Yeah, I don't think anyone saw this vein of form in terms of everyone thought he was good and knew he was good. No one expected the returns.
100%. Sam, I was actually going to ask you, like, who's going to be the most decisive player, in your opinion, for tomorrow? Who's going to change the course of the tide?
I mean, Barca are lacking game changers, aren't they? I would like it to be
Fermin Lopez is a damn good game changer in his own right.
I would like it to be. I would like to see it being Fermin Lopez. I've also got a feeling just this is an occasion for Vinicius. Like Jacob obviously rightly picking out Bellingham, and Bellingham is absolutely, in terms of the two teams, in terms of the league of the season, he's been the standout player. He's been the player that's probably earned his team the most points, the most decisive player, and is the obvious standout player. But I just think could be an occasion for Vinicius as well. You know, he's always such a threat against Barcelona. I always remember games, even when he was sort of ridiculed against Barcelona, he was always incredible just before he lacked that end product, the amount of sort of trouble and danger he would cause, and then just miss the chance or waste a cross. But obviously since then he's added end product. He's had a good run of games now since he's come back. It's an area, depending on what Xavi does, where he could get some joy if Cancelo's right back in behind, if Bellingham's occupying other players. So maybe Vinicius as opposed to Bellingham could sort of step up for Madrid. And yeah, I would like it to be Fermin Lopez for Barca.
Fermin Lopez has been, you know, super impressive. Sam,
Sunil, before we go into the next question, we have a super chat from Hassan. So he says, I need a masterclass from Carlo. He can't, for the love of God, play Cruz as a 6. Need Camavinga at left back, and who starts between Joselu and Rodrigo? A lot of questions here. But basically, the summarization is that he doesn't want favorites to pop up. He doesn't want both Modric and Cruz to start. And if that's the case, Cruz is going to start as a 6. And
that's not going to happen.
Joselu and Rodrigo?
That's not going to happen, Hassan. You know, I'm pretty sure, you know, Carlo knows that, you know, he can't experiment anymore. Not this season, unfortunately, because we can't afford to do that, because the season is still, you know, in its early, you know, rituals, but we still need to, you know, stamp our authority and stake the claim in the league, because that's our best chance of winning, you know, a major trophy. I don't think Carlo is gonna, you know, do anything out of the norm for tomorrow, but I had to ask this, Sam, right? Since we have this opportunity, Sam, the rumors surrounding Barcelona, their credibility is being questioned day in, day out. And another a huge turn of events actually, you know, unfolded today. Like, do you think that there is a legitimate threat to, you know, La Liga as an institution, as a league? Like, can we actually believe what we are watching week in, week out?
In what sense?
In the sense that people can be influenced, you know, people can be bought out.
The referees,
results.
The referees are getting paid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
stuff like that.
You mean as in the current season, or historically, or are you referring to the Negreira case, or are you talking about now in the current season?
Not just the current season, the whole Negreira affair in general.
I mean, in general, I like to believe that referees are honest. Obviously, there have been cases where there are things, underhand things at play. I haven't seen so much in Spain, but in Italy, for example, the Negreira case, it's difficult to comment on. I mean, if you look at the payments that have been made, it's hard to think that was for nothing. The one thing that perhaps it could be is some sort of money laundering going on, in terms of similar to the case that Barca had with the social media companies, that they were paying and then taking the money back out for directors and whatnot. It could be something to do with that. But yeah, it's hard to look at those payments and think whether they were getting something or not. They thought they were getting something, but it's impossible to know, because on the other hand, it seems strange to me in a country such as Spain, there would still at this point be no evidence, no referees speaking out saying this, that. I mean, there have been maybe a couple of things, but there's been nothing legitimate, nothing sort of there's that I know of from the case that I followed and from following the judge. There's not any clear. We've got the payments, which are dodgy. No one's disputing that. it's just it's difficult for me to comment on anything else because there's no evidence. I want to believe in the credibility of the referees.
100%. Because if that's gone, then what's the point?
It's difficult to know.
Yeah.
What's going on? I don't think. I mean, if you look over the course of the period as well, I mean, there are moments where Barca don't get decisions, and so I think even if they were buying things or thought they were buying influence, another question is then if they were actually getting influence. And the standout incident in that time is obviously the final game of the season against Atletico Madrid when they have a legitimate goal ruled out that would have won them the title. But I mean, you can once you start going over decisions, it's a murky sort of hole because there are decisions that go for and against all clubs. And the only thing that I say on this, as a Burnley fan as well, not just to do with Spanish football but English football
100%.
as well, is that big teams get far more decisions than the little teams, and that's Barcelona and Real Madrid get ridiculously more decisions, and there's so much more of a fuss. Like imagine. It's because I guess and we're probably to blame as the media because obviously there's much more attention and it drills up a lot more. I mean, I try not to do a lot of referee stuff. But obviously in Spain, it's always a huge issue.
So you think that basically referees have the pressure to actually give decisions to big teams?
I don't think it's that they're purposely giving decisions. It's just, the reputations of the players, the home crowd, what's on the line, different subconscious things. I don't think they're deliberately doing it or anything. I just think it's like people talk about referees favouring home sides and whatnot. I just think there's a tendency, or I just see from my point of view. I don't know if you guys agree. Big teams, maybe fans of big teams don't agree, but I just feel that the big teams do get more decisions. Maybe it's just that we see more analysis of the decisions of the big teams.
Jacob, I would like you to go first.
No, man. So as like fans of like big teams, we are blindsided by what actually happens, right? But then when you go to like the Twitter handles of all of these smaller La Liga sites, they're always complaining about this thing. Oh man, and it's a real fact. It's a fact of life. I feel like subconsciously these referees do give decisions, or at least take more weightage into consideration when they give out these decisions when it comes to Barca or Real, because the repercussions will be huge. Because the Real Madrid recently started putting it on Real Madrid TV, all the mistakes that the referees have been making.
That's such a low move. Like I've mentioned it multiple times. An institution of our stature, we shouldn't stoop that low. We're in Manchester United. We're in Arsenal. We should be doing better. But thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for your honest opinion on that situation, because I was in two minds, thinking whether I should be asking you about that specifically. But again, I think that pretty much wraps up our preview. Barcelona are on a run. 13 games, 10 wins, 3 draws, 0 defeats, unbeaten in all competitions. And it'll bring me no greater joy than actually, putting an end to that run tomorrow. It'll take every single ounce of determination and persistence from our end to actually see this game out. I do feel like this one will have a huge say where La Liga ends up in April or May, and is also a perfect precursor for the knockouts that's coming up in less than 2 months for both teams. 3 out of 3 in the Champions League as well. Both teams are looking great. They are still looking vulnerable as well. So a clear favorite is everyone's best guess for tomorrow. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Sam. Again, I would like to extend my warm. I would like to warmly appreciate that whenever we reach out to you, you find time for us, amid your busy schedule and whatnot. Hopefully, Sam, we can do much more content this season, and I hope you enjoyed previewing this Clasico with us.
So Nate, come on,
thanks for.
Are we not?
On and keep up the good work.
Yeah, let's give predictions for this match, man. Come on, can't miss that.
Oh yeah, 100%. The predictions. My bad. Well, I would go for a 2-2 draw that I mentioned about on the last post match, because I don't see a clear winner here. Sam, what do you think?
Like both teams have got injuries, haven't they? We talk a lot about Barca's injuries. Obviously, Courtois and Militao, obviously huge for for Madrid, I mean, you maybe would say especially Militao as well, but especially Courtois, he feels invincible at times. So Kepa obviously changes things. I've been back and forth between all three results. So on this one, just for a bit of variety, because I'm guessing you both go for Madrid wins, I'm going to go for a 4-3 Barca win in an absolute classic.
7 goals, yeah? Fair. I really hope that's the case. Jacob, do you have something that wild?
No, man. I'm going to go the opposite way. I feel like none of the teams have any good scorer or any clinical finisher in them. So I'm going to go with the 1-0 to Real Madrid.
1-0 to Madrid, yeah, would be.
Can I just say that Jacob said earlier in the podcast that there's going to be a lot of goals in this game?
There you go. He's actually paying attention. He's calling you out for your.
Yeah. I think I meant there's going to be a lot of chances. Both teams don't know how to defend. But I don't think either team are going to put away their chances. Let's see.
Jacob, you fumbled the bag right there, man. But it's all good. It's all good. Sam actually knows, what we are about. But Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully, you send our warm regards to Rick and Tony as well over at Siempro Positivo. Sam's socials are in the description below. His Twitter or X link and also his Instagram link is also in the description. Go check Sam out. Go check Sam's podcast out, Siempre Positivo, covering everything Barcelona from Barcelona. Go check them out. Give them a follow. Also check out our partners at Real Madrid Committee. The link is in the description below. They run a brilliant fan page. So hoping for the best. Hoping that Saturday is a good day for the white side of Madrid. Until next time. Hala Madrid.
Hala Madrid.
Cheers, guys. Enjoy the game.
Thank you so much, Sam. He just left.
ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചു എല്ലാം ക്ലിയർ എല്ലാ സെന്റൻസും ശ്രദ്ധിക്കണം